There we are. Welcome, everybody. We are live now, Juan.
Okay.
Welcome, everybody, join in to the Bogotá Digital Library session. Just give it a minute while people are coming in before we start. You can say hello in the chat if you'd like to, and use the chat and the Q&A for all your questions as well. Will be brilliant. We'll have a time for maybe one or two at the end, I should think. And if we don't get to your questions, then maybe you could contact Juan in the lobby on the chat. And Juan, are you okay to share your slides after as well? Awesome. Right. So I'm delighted to welcome Juan, who's going to share how the Bogotá Digital Library uses Wagtail to power an open collaborative platform where citizens, librarians, and cultural mediators co-create and preserve the city's cultural and literary heritage. I'm going to hand over to you, Juan.
Thank you, Lisa. Can you hear me? Okay, and can you see my screen also?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for your time, and thank you very much for Wagtail Space invitation here. I'm going to show how the Bogotá Digital Library, or Biblioteca Digital de Bogotá, works, or has been designed and developed and currently works. It's a beautiful project. And how Wagtail also helps us, or the admins, to run the library smoothly. So a little bit about myself. My name is Juan Aguayo. I currently lead Aguayo. Aguayo is a boutique UX strategy, marketing, and technology consultancy firm. We do projects in Latin America and North America. We work with a strong focus on user experience design. I just want to share this slide that shows our whole strategy. There's a lot of UX here, and then what our UX strategy finds goes into websites. And this is basically what we have done before here for the library. What is the Bogotá Digital Library? Let me move this down here. What is the Bogotá Digital Library? So I would say, like, the formal description is a public, open, and collaborative platform that integrates content from multiple sources to preserve, organize, and disseminate the city's cultural, historical, and literary heritage through accessible, people-centered experiences. It's a library that integrates different repositories and puts all the information just in one place, so people can access those information, can share those information, and can then add some of their comments or even build all experiences to share with some other people. I'm going to make just a quick tour, a very quick tour, so you can have an idea of how it works. So this is the homepage. You can see we have collections here. Collections is just a group of cultural resources. We have expositions, which are like what we call a museum exposition, where you can explain a topic and then add some of the resources. Demos, and these are just single resources. So there are books here, but you can have videos, you can have photographs, you can have pictures, you can have audio, and then you have the possibility to look for any resource. For example, we're going to look for 100 años de soledad, and we can go directly to one of the resources, like this one. And then you can see a description of the book. You can find some metadata about the source where we are fetching this information from, the format, the year of publication. And if you want to, you can go click here and you go directly to the actual source of the content. We have a small explanation here, explain the user that's going to open in another window. This is the most basic part of the library, the digital library. You can add this to one of your collections. So there's a very nice idea here about institutional collections, users collections, expositions. So let's say like I like this and have built my own collection, so I can look for this later. So I have a couple of collections here. I can just click here in my collection, just save this, and it has been saved for my, so I can look for it later. Let me see. Oh, so I'm going to share what institutional collection is. So as a user, I can build my collections, but also there are authorities, cultural authorities, like other libraries. So they can share with us specific collections which have been created by experts before. So you can see that these are general collections, and let's say that I would like to go into this Afro-Colombian collection of literature. I can click here, there's a small description, there's a counter here telling me that there are 19 books in this particular collection. You can see that there are PDFs, that there are different kind of resources, and if I want to, I could click on one of these, and it's exactly the same thing, what I've seen before. I go into the book, but the collection is built by, or has been built by a group of different resources that make sense for that collection, or for the name that a specific collection. These are reviews for the collection as well, for this particular book. And then I can go into collections that have been built by other users here. So there are different kind of collections here. I can go into my own personal collections, which, let's say I'm a regular user. I can build my own collection and have any amount of books here, or press releases, or press articles, or one guide of study here. This has photographs, articles. And then I can go into collections that are collaborative collections that I have invited or I have joined and are different, or other users collaborating as well. Just the same dynamic. People add resources to this specific collection. So if I go to any of this collection, you'll see that these are the other collaborators. This is the main creator. If I go and click on any of these users, I can see what other collections have been created by him. So it's like the whole idea of creating experiences, cultural experiences around the idea of just sharing books that have been connected from different repositories. And then we have expositions, which is the other very interesting part. Expositions work just like what happens in museums. So you have an expert that tells a little bit about a particular topic, expands on the topic, and then using Wagtail, he starts to add different kind of components to build his exposition, or their exposition, and can also relate particular resources, which are also books or the specific. For example, this is an exposition, so you can see this particular exposition has different topics which are part of the main exposition. So if you go into this specific part of this chapter of the exposition, you'll see that this is all managed by the editor in Wagtail. I'll show you that a little bit later from the admin's point of view. But you can see that there are different components, and so the creator or the can expand on the information. We also have a timeline. It's very interactive. It's very nice. So if you click here, you can see, okay, what was this part and what did this happen about the whole history of bicycles in Colombia. And if you would like to go into the resource again, you can just click here and go back to the user, to the particular resource, and go to the content that you want to, and you'll open a new tab and take you directly to the library that provides the content, and then you have a profile. So this is the general idea of how the digital library of Bogotá works. And these are the numbers behind. So the project was launched in 2019. I'm going to show a timeline just after this slide. But to this point, it was released just connecting 13 public libraries, part of the district libraries network in Bogotá. And then it has grown to get more sources of information. So right now we have 123 connected sources, private and public libraries, and as well as other cultural repositories. Right now, the library has around 650,000 index resources, 150,000 registered users, user created collections, it's something around 16,000. Community reviews for books or for cultural resources, particular cultural resources, is something about 168 community reviews. This model was released in December 2024, at the end of last year, and the whole library goes for the accessibility standard of AA, just to make sure that people with some limitations can go through the content without any problem. What's the story behind the project? This is the general timeline, and obviously the project, it's so nice, so powerful that there's a huge team behind this, and for this kind of project there has to be a strategy defined previously, and that's what our client did. And when I talk about our client, means part of the district libraries team, and also part of the government's team of Bogotá. And we're talking about 2013 conceptualizations, foundations. What basically happened there is that they realized that a huge part of the user base for the physical district libraries were very young, were young people, were internet savvy people. They used a lot of mobile devices, and they were going to library to find information for their studies. And then this question starts to happen in their minds. Okay, what's the next step? What should we do? And then very nice ideas came 2017, an ideathon, hackathon, intersectoral workshop looking for innovation, helped define the general guidelines of what was going to later become the Digital Library of Bogotá. Then 2018, a formal RFP, request for proposal, was launched. We won the project. We started to work for the initial release, which was published in 2019. And at this point, it was only Django. And that made sense because the very first part was only going fetch resources from different repositories, or obviously process that information and put that information available for the users. You could create obviously your user profile, but there was not a lot of interaction. But that was exactly what happened later in 2020. So we started to have this challenge of okay, we need more interactivity, and then how can Wagtail help us there later? I'm going to talk about that just in a couple of seconds. Just want to know like the conceptual work plan. This is standard. What happened here is discovering a strategy, first step. Then we went into information architecture and graphic user interface design. Information architecture, I mean, wireframes were in part provided by our client. After UI design, we went into prototyping and user testing. then development, and then website publication. And then down here, we have the line for the harvester, which is basically the program that goes and fetches the resources, and content harvesting strategy, how we're going to implement that. And then we had to consider, obviously, what's going to be the impact in sale, how we're going to be facing the SEO challenges for the content to be indexed in Google. So we integrated that later into the software. You can consult this later. This is the general plan that we had, each like detailed activities. So some of these were already provided by the client, but in general terms, this is what we were doing. And so 2019, 2020, we were facing the challenge of how can we create engagement in the library, not just have a website where users can go and access specific books, but how can we start to create experiences? That the challenge was brought to us by our client. They already have a very good idea of what we should be doing. And then we start to talk about user-created collections. Then we start to talk about interactions with collections. Then we start to talk about expositions and improving the expositions experience. And at this point, Wagtail we started to have conversations about using Wagtail for the admins. This is general for everything that we do. We believe, obviously, because we are strong advocates of user experience, we believe user experience is the great gateway to technology adoption. And we mean this works for both ways, or for both kind of users, for the final user, but also for the admin, because we have seen tons of projects that a couple of years or months later just disappear because it was very difficult to manage. They were very difficult to manage the content, to keep this flow the easiest way. So Wagtail worked very, very well for us. So I took this quote from Wagtail, which is beautiful. Wagtail CMS is a toolkit designed to empower content editors. Our job as developers is to make life easier for editors without giving them the power to break things. And that was one of our challenges, obviously. The whole process of publishing content, publishing expositions, creating new experiences in the digital library of Bogota was a challenge in terms of how complex the whole project was. 2019, this is the general overview. So Django was doing the whole work. I wouldn't say that there was major interaction for the users. It was obviously very nice, but then we added Wagtail, and we argue the usage of Wagtail for editing and improving the user experience for the admins specifically, I believe. In terms of tasks, so for you just guys to know what's the difference between those two. Why? Because I believe that one of the key success the success case for this project is like this separation or division between what Django does and what is it that Django is very good for some specific things, and then how can we use Wagtail to integrate with Django, but also to elevate the admin's experiences. So we have here content harvester, which basically connects and fetches resources, processes, and normalizes. Then we have the setup for this harvester, because we have to configure or set up the resource that we're going to be getting information from, and we have to make some equivalencies, so make sure that some fields match with other fields, so then the information can be normalized in Django without any problem. And then we have a basic admin for adding resources, so we can go and get those resources. And then we have Wagtail for managing expositions, managing the help center, and organizing navigation. And then, as the Django interface was not that friendly, we took advantage of Wagtail's user interface to add a status overview for our client, for the harvester. The harvester makes these very technical tasks and gets a lot of resources. So I'd like to share a couple of screens here, so you can have an idea of what is what we mean by using Wagtail with Digital Library. So obviously, this is an exposition, the exposition that I showed just a couple of minutes ago. So you can see here that you have the description of the exposition divided by type of content or fields. And then you have this interaction for adding resources. So this is what Django is doing. Django is going and getting resources and organizing the information to be available for the library later. But the magic here is, okay, I can create an exposition, but I can also relate to a specific resource that I want to show in the timeline. For example, this one specifically refers to the resource that I showed in timeline. Reusable components, and this is something that Wagtail is fantastic. I believe one of the strongest advantages, because now that we have built a lot of Wagtail projects and we have more experience, we know that we go from the idea of components, and then that tends to give the admins a lot of flexibility into adding different kind of things into his project. So in this case, you can see that whenever I want to add a particular content, we already have the component that we're already using or reusing in a lot of other pages in Wagtail. Harvesting dashboard. This is this interface that connects with Django and the infrastructure and gets messages of what's going on. So now the admin of the library who wants to start harvesting resources, he just goes here and starts creating this and see how the harvesting process is progressing and the status. There's another one here. You can see how many new resources were created, how many were deleted, how many were updated, if there were failings during the process. You can go into each of these details. So what the team did here was they went and they correlated, they used the usual error codes, which are very technical, number codes, and then they add a name for each of these, so the admin knows what's actually going on. They can see a progress bar for the whole thing, because previously using language just was waiting and then see what happens. And then I just want to close because I have just a couple of minutes, but I mentioned that I'm right on time. Lessons learned, and I would say that this is in general for any kind of this project. Design CMS for editors. Have in mind the user who is behind, because I believe that part of the success of this project has to do with the idea of thinking who is going to be managing the content of this website. How can we make his life easier? And that's really, really important, I believe. One of the most important lessons that we have learned throughout our history or our experience. This idea of single responsibility principle, which goes down into code and functions, etc., can go app also. You can go into a more general idea, and this is okay. Understand where Django adds value, and then understand where Wagtail adds value, and define the strategy to build the whole project according to that. And a good client is 50% of any great project. And we were very good doing building what they had in mind. Our client already had the vision and the strategy. So they came to us already knowing where they wanted to go. And that helped a lot. A lot of people made this possible, and I just want to say thank you for this is a reduced list. To be honest, there are a lot of more people, but I just want to say thank you because although I'm just exposing this, the reality is that the merit goes to a lot of these very, very nice people who made this possible.
Brilliant. Thank you, Juan. We have got a couple of questions for you just to squeeze in very quickly. Well, Gabriel actually sent 3, so I'm going to give them to you one at a time, like quick fire ones. How much of your time do you spend building restrictions?
Okay, how much of your time do you spend building restrictions? Letter of yours? Do you get much feedback from the authors? That's out of our scope. Like our client is the district libraries network, and they have policies, and they have all the resources, and they connect and talk with other private and public libraries. And so we don't, there are policies, obviously, but I believe that I cannot answer that specific questions because from Aguayo's perspective, which we're just designing and building the platform, we don't go into that. Now, if you are talking about technical restrictions, building the harvester took almost like between 5-6 months, something like that. And we had a guideline, which is the Dublin core protocol or standard. So yes, we took some time into thinking, okay, how to match data, doing some testing, and then seeing if that works fine. Do you get much feedback and thanks from the authors? I believe the district library does. We have some good reviews, but we don't have any merit in that part. Okay.
And then we had one more question about localization, which might be more for the client as well. But is content published in multiple languages? So do they translate their books as well?
I believe there are their books. They're written in other languages. It's all this part of the content that's managed is managed by the libraries. So we have connected 123 repositories, and they have tons of books. And obviously, I believe that they have different languages, but it's not. I cannot answer for that in terms of what we do. I know that they just send the resources, and we just show the resources exactly.
Cool, that's fine. Brilliant. Thank you so much, Juan, for coming and sharing your story with us today. Everyone, you've got a couple of minutes now to get back to your next sessions. Thanks, everyone.
Lisa, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And everyone.